Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Rivera. I'm the hearing examiner presiding over today's case. The date is August 22nd, 2023, and this is case SEZ2019-00026. It's a special exception request in the North Fort Myers planning community. Because it is a quasi-judicial hearing, all evidence and testimony must be taken under oath. So if you intend to speak, if you could please raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll provide is the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. We do not have any members of the public present, so I will dispense with those instructions and we can begin with the applicant. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, Veronica Martin, Senior Planner with TDM Consulting. I'm representing the applicant, Wayland's Debris Removal, LLC. I do have one exhibit I would like to enter into the record. It is a copy of today's PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, thank you. That will be Applicant's Exhibit 1, and I did pre-label the 48-hour letter as Applicant's Exhibit 2.
Okay,
Thank you.
Before I get started, I would like to thank you for the several continuances and deferrals that we had on this special exception. And I will apologize for the length of this presentation because it has been since 2018, 2019 since I submitted this, so it's probably a little lengthy than my normal presentations, refamiliarizing myself with this project. The request before you today is a special exception to permit on-premise consumption of alcoholic beverages pursuant to Land Development Code Section 34-1264. This COP is a Type 4 COP, SFS, in conjunction with a Group 3 restaurant. Land Development Code Section 34-1264A2 requires a special exception for restaurants that provide outdoor seating for patrons consuming alcoholic beverages if the area is located less than 500 feet from a religious facility, school, daycare facility, or single-family dwelling unit. In this case, the outdoor seating area is located 120 feet from the existing mobile home park to the west. The 1.83 acre property consists of 3 lots located at 1021, 1025, and 1027 North Tamiami Trail in the North Fort Myers planning community just across the Edison Bridge. The property has a future land use classification of intensive development, is zoned C1 commercial, and is located in the mixed use overlay. The property was previously developed as a marina and there are 2 existing buildings on site. The applicant still intends to redevelop the site for commercial use. TDM Consulting has provided a site plan showing the proposed redevelopment of the site, including the buildings at full build-out, the outdoor seating area for building number 1, parking, buffers, drainage, etc. This site plan is part of the full site construction plans that were approved by Lee County Development Services for DOS 2019-00155. I also provided an enlarged site plan that shows building 1, the outdoor seating area, and the dimension to the west property line, which is actually 120.84 feet. And I don't know if you can see that. It's from this edge all the way to the west property line there.
And that says proposed railing by others to delineate outdoor seating area?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Landesco provided landscape plans for the same development order, which are also included with this special exception request. And as you can see from the landscape plan, the site provides extensive vegetation including general trees, building perimeter plantings, buffers, and landscaping for parking and vehicle use areas. An additional 37 trees are provided to abate a code violation for removing trees without a permit. A total of 93 trees and 673 shrubs are proposed. In addition, the applicant is exceeding the minimum open space required. Only 10% or approximately 8,000 square feet of open space is required. The applicant is providing 27,550 square feet or approximately 34% of the open space. I also provided an enlarged landscape plan. Per Land Development Code Section 10-425F, a 10-foot wide buffer with Type B plantings is required along the west property line where the existing mobile home park is located. A Type B buffer is required to provide 5 trees per 100 linear feet and a double staggered hedgerow to be maintained at 36 inches high. The applicant is also providing an 8-foot high opaque wall 10 feet from the property line to provide a physical barrier between the commercial development and the mobile home park. This will further mitigate any noise, light, etc. from impacting the property to the west. I mentioned previously that additional vegetation was required to abate a code violation. There are actually 3 code violations at the time of this application that are still current. The applicant is in the process of abating those code violations through redevelopment of this property. I do want to talk about compatibility. The property to the north is separated by West North Shore Avenue, is zoned commercial C2, and is developed as a commercial building. The properties to the east are separated by North Tamiami Trail, are zoned commercial C2, and are developed as a marina in commercial uses. The property to the south is the Caloosahatchee River, and the property to the west is zoned Mobile Home Residential District MH2 and is developed as a mobile home park. Properties in the intensive development future land use classification are intended to accommodate high-density residential, commercial, limited light industrial, and office uses. In addition, the property is in the mixed-use overlay. The proposed use, restaurant with outdoor seating, is appropriate at this location. Permitting consumption on premises as conditioned is compatible with the surrounding uses. The Lee Plan analysis. Redevelopment of a commercial property along a major arterial road supports compact growth patterns and continuous development. Urban services such as potable water, sanitary sewer, fire and rescue, law enforcement, and EMS are available and adequate to serve the proposed development. This is consistent with the intensive development future land use category, Lee Plan Policy 1.1.2, development location, Objective 2.1 and Policies 2.1.1 and 2.1.2, and development timing, Objective 2.2 and Policy 2.2.2. Lee Plan Policy 5.1.5 of the Lee Plan intends to protect existing and future residential areas from any encroachment of uses that are potentially destructive to the character and integrity of the residential environment. The subject property has always been used for commercial uses. Per the property appraiser's website, the property has historically been used as a marina and a commercial shopping center, and the buildings have been on the tax roll since 1950 and 1967. The applicant intends to redevelop this smaller building into a restaurant with outdoor seating. The outdoor seating area is located 120 feet from the property line to the mobile home park to the west. In addition to the 10-foot buffer with vegetation, the applicant is providing the 8-foot high solid opaque wall to mitigate any noise, lights, etc. associated with the outdoor seating area. The applicant believes the restaurant use is compatible with the neighborhood and that permitting the COP in the outdoor seating area is not detrimental or injurious to the mobile home park to the west. Goal 6 of the LEED plan establishes objectives and policies to facilitate orderly and well-planned commercial developments at appropriate locations within the county. As previously stated, a development order has already been issued for this development. So it has been reviewed for traffic, buffering and screening, water and sewer, environmental impacts, and other services and facilities. This is consistent with Goal 6, Policy 6.1, and Policy 6.4. The property is in the mixed-use overlay. The applicant did utilize development regulations provided for properties within the overlay. The proposed restaurant and associated consumption on premises is consistent with Objective 11.2. The intent of Goal 30 of the LEED plan is to improve the livability and economic vitality in the North Fort Myers Community Plan area. Objective 30.2 encourages revitalization of designated road corridor overlay districts and redevelopment areas. The property is located along a corridor overlay district, and the applicant is redeveloping an old commercial property that has fallen into disrepair. Redevelopment of this site will be an improvement of a corridor commercial property, which is consistent with Goal 30 Objective 30.2 of the LEED plan. The applicant proposed several conditions regarding the hours of operation and entertainment to increase compatibility with the residential uses to the west. However, staff has slightly reduced those timeframes. The applicant is in agreement with that slight reduction. The hours of operation proposed by staff: Sunday through Thursday, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 6 a.m. to midnight. Music Sunday through Thursday must end by 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday must end by 10 p.m. The applicant believes we have met the criteria for special exception approval. The application has demonstrated that the request is consistent with the goals, objectives, policies, and intent of the LEED plan. The request will protect, conserve, or preserve environmentally critical and sensitive areas and natural resources where applicable. The request is compatible with existing and planned uses. The request will not be injurious to the neighborhood or detrimental to the public welfare, and the development will be in compliance with zoning regulations pertaining to the use and other applicable regulations. In summary, the applicant is in agreement with the staff report, the proposed conditions, and the recommendation of approval. That does conclude my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
On the 48-hour letter, there was reference to some minor changes that were made. It sounded like affecting the DO and not the zoning, but were there any changes to the site plan that resulted as a result of those changes, or anything that needed to be updated because of the date of the filing of this?
When I reviewed, because Dirk asked me, he asked me the same question. When I reviewed the minor change approval, it was basically building footprint, size, parking, layout, just little minor changes that the architect had.
Okay, so nothing, because condition 1 is always going to be consistency with the site plan. So I just want to be sure that we're not handcuffing anybody before they get to even that point. And then the status of the code violations, there were 3, and I think 2 of them related to the plantings, if I recall. Hold on.
One is for development, improvements to the site without a permit. The other one is for removing trees without a permit, which they have to replant, and that's part of the special exception requirement and the DO requirement. The third was regarding the dock. So they had to get permission from FWC, and I believe there's liens regarding all 3 of those. And Dirk may be able to speak more to that.
Okay, but all 3 of those cases are still active?
Yes.
To your knowledge. Mm-hmm. And then on this, the last question I had, on the hours of operation, 6 a.m. is a little earlier than what we usually see. What was the reason for that?
Because he still wants to use the dock, he's thinking that people will come early for breakfast and go out on their boats.
Okay, so the hours of operation for the steakhouse, because it sounded like of the 2 buildings, building 1 it was designated as a steakhouse with the outdoor seating, which is what we're talking about today. Building 2, it sounded like was going to be more of a quick serve or maybe something that would be a little.
Actually, that's backwards.
Okay.
So building 1 is going to be a casual serve, and he originally called it a tiki restaurant. So quick casual.
And is that, this is so small, it was really
I
hard
know,
for me to read, so I appreciate
know.
the enlargements. But is building 1 the northern?
Yes.
one or the southern?
The northern one.
So building 1
Right.
is the quick serve tiki
Casual,
bar.
right. And then in the future, he's going to convert the larger building into a steakhouse.
Okay, so building 2 is the one closer to the water,
Yes.
and that would be the steakhouse.
He's been in the process of making improvements to building 1, to the interior of building 1, which is why we're here for the COP, because that building will be finished first. And then you will probably see me back when they work on building 2.
And that's why I wasn't sure if building 2 was within that same distancing of, because it
It's a little bit different.
appears to be a little.
But because of the time frame, they have to be open and serving alcohol within a certain time frame. We didn't want to combine them.
And then live music, the way that it's written, it just says it has to end by 9 p.m. Is the expectation that that would start at 6 a.m. too? Because that also seems pretty.
No.
What would be the start time for that? Is that subject to a separate? Because to just say it has to end by 9, it could be starting at any time. I'd like to see a little more clarity on that, if there's a time that you had in mind.
This, if I may jump in, the second sentence on the same condition says outdoor live entertainment may not begin until 11 a.m. daily.
Okay, where is that?
It's the last sentence of that last condition.
Of condition 3. Okay, so it just wasn't shown on the slide. So it would be 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Friday through Saturday. Okay. Okay, those
Thank
were
you,
my
Derek.
questions for now. Thank you. Did staff have any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, Dirk Danley, Zoning Division, Lee County Community Development. Before we start, there was a couple times in the staff report where we bounced between 2 COP and 4 COP SFS. The intent is 4 COP SFS. The conditions at the end of the staff report speak to specifically 4 COP SFS, and staff we just wanted to clarify that on the record that that's what is being sought today is the 4 COP SFS. I'll try really hard not to overlap with the applicant's presentation for the sake of brevity, but did want to talk about a couple things. This is specific to building 1 of the site plan. Just a little bit of background on the property. There are the 3 active code enforcement violations. There was a demo permit for the docks. The aerial records, which we'll see in a second, show that it's been removed. The docks have been removed, but that status in Excella in our system still has it as lien recorded. So the actual getting rid of the lien has not taken place yet, and that status of lien recorded is on all 3 of the violation cases today. There have been some subsequent violations that have been closed, but these 3 are still active. And my suspicion is that they're all tied to the development order. So there's probably something in the development order that needs to be completed before they can get out of those liens. I guess from a history standpoint, that's really the only notable piece of it. There was an ADD that provided some site plan relief for parking, and then it also provided conditions for some of the abatements on those violations. So there's an intermingling between this special exception, some violations, an administrative approval, and a development order, which had 2 minor amendments to it as well. So eventually this will all come to a head, and hopefully all of these things will be closed out. But only time will tell. Just to give you a little bit of aerial reference, this is just at the base of the bridge. Pondella and Business 41 is the nearest major intersection to the north. You can see here on the aerial that those docks were removed. This is a 2023 aerial. If you look back at, say, a 2020 aerial, those docks were still there in that location. So those that's been at least physically abated. The actual case itself is still open. Additionally, you can see that the trees that were removed haven't been replaced yet on site either. But this is not really, germane to the special exception itself. It just provides a little bit of context. This is the building 1 that the applicant did show, kind of in a zoomed in area. There's this pavered area in the back that is under consideration for outdoor consumption on premises as well. Just going through the decision-making criteria, staff does find that this is a project. Oh, something's jumped on. Something's happening to the computer.
I've lost my tabs too. There we go. I knew they were here somewhere.
That was weird.
That was weird. With the rehabilitation associated to the development order and the ADD, we do find that this special exception and the development associated with it will protect and conserve environmentally critical areas. We do find it to be compatible with the existing and planned uses. As conditioned with the hours of operation, the music, the buffer wall that the applicant can bring up, we did find that this would be not detrimental to the surrounding neighborhood, and it is compliant with all applicable zoning regulations. At the completion of the development order, it will be in compliance with all zoning regulations. Just to speak briefly on the lead plan policies, this is in the intensive development future land use category. That's kind of the highest level of commercial intended for Lee County. This is located along a major arterial roadway. This is in the North Fort Myers commercial corridor. It is in the mixed use overlay. The scale at which their restaurants, both of them, are proposed are not taking to the fullest extent of what all those things combined can take or can have on the site. They are trying to just rehabilitate the existing structures on the property, but we still do find them consistent with that category, the intensive development future land use category. This is in an area where significant urban services exist, and in many ways with the redevelopment it is considered an infill project, just bringing old commercial uses back to life. I did talk about this a little bit, but just in reference to policy 5.1.5 and compatibility to neighboring residential uses. This is in the commercial corridor, mixed use overlay, and that buffer wall that we discussed does provide enough adequate protections along with the hours of operation and the live music limitations. We do find it to be consistent with this policy as well. As with every zoning case, we do review these future land use, or this lead plan goal and objectives, and we did find them consistent with all relevant policies. We do find it consistent with objective 11.2 as it pertains to the mixed use overlay. This is not in the staff report, but goal 158 speaks to the diversification of the economy within Lee County. Bringing new commercial businesses back online is consistent with this goal as well. These are the conditions in the back of the staff report, just to reference them. We are talking about for COP SFS for building 1 specifically. When building 2 comes online, they'll need their own special exception approval. The hours of operation, as we've talked about, staff and the applicant are in agreement moving forward. And we do find that this request meets the decision-making criteria for special exceptions, and we do recommend approval for this case as conditioned.
The only question, again, on the hours, typically you see 7 a.m. So was there a reason that 6 a.m. in this case seemed more appropriate?
I don't think we would object to a 7 a.m. The applicant had their reasons. Business or restaurant businesses often open between 6 and 7, probably really in the middle more often than not at 6:30. We just wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity to serve alcohol if they were doing breakfasts that early in the morning.
And you didn't get any calls from neighbors or anyone?
It's been several years since this was going through sufficiency. I believe we had 2 calls from neighbors, none with any specific objections. They were just curious about the case.
Do you recall if they were the adjacent, like the immediate?
Yeah, it was the mobile home park to the north,
West?
west, northwest, west, west.
It's hard on this orientation because the river curves a little bit right.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting.
Right.
Do you know on the site plan, will there be any obstruction of view from the outdoor seating area to the water, or is this considered waterfront dining to some extent?
Yes, it'll be obstructed by parking.
Okay.
Parking will be along in this area here. I believe, if you want to look at the site plan here, you know, there may be some vista, you know, through cars in this direction. This one is really going to be the one that has the waterfront dining building too.
Again, it was really hard for me to tell
Right,
the
yeah.
site plan, so there, thank you, that's easier. So I see the delineation of the parking areas. What's to the west? Are those detention areas, or is that more parking that's just
This,
gravelled?
this is parking here as well. I believe what they're referencing in this area is existing concrete,
Okay,
with the texture here. And then this is proposed. So they're basically coming in and just connecting it all up.
okay. Thank you, that's helpful. I tried, I got out my magnifying glass and everything, and I tried to zoom in. It was just
Right.
very difficult on this one because there's a lot packed in there.
Right.
Okay. Let me check.
Yeah, the site plan's a little strange for a typical special exception. Because we had to marry up the development order plans, the ADD, the special exception, they all had to speak to each other. And so this plan is a lot more detailed than what's expected for a special exception.
Yes, a lot of moving parts, as you said, a lot of
Mhm.
different approvals that we're looking at here. Okay, I think that was the extent of my questions. Let me just check. The ADD, it seemed, did contemplate the outdoor seating area, so that's already covered.
Yes.
Okay. That would be it. Just going back again to the applicant, do you know on the hours of operation, or was that something that you discussed with them? That's the only heartache that I have on it. 6 a.m. just seems very early, given the proximity, because you are immediately adjacent to those folks. And given the time of this case, I just worry that maybe it fell off their radar a little bit. I don't want to see them in a precarious situation.
I did not, I haven't spoken to the client about the 6 a.m. timeframe recently. That was the timeframe that he requested when we first started this application. And that was when the docks were still located in the river. And that was his intent, that if someone wanted to, if they were going out fishing, they could come and get a bite, you know, get breakfast and go back out. I don't fish, so I don't know if 6 a.m. is the time frame. I don't know if 7 a.m. would still work. I will let the hearing examiner make that decision, and we will abide by your decision.
Thank you. I just wasn't sure if that was an item of discussion or not. Again,
It wasn't.
typically it's a 7 a.m. start. I very rarely have seen anything earlier than that, and if so, it's usually for a very specific reason that's documented somewhere as to
Right.
why that's necessary in that case.
If I'm recalling accurately, the original request by the applicant at first round of sufficiency was for all of it. So from the very beginning to all the way to 2 a.m. And we kept pulling back on the nighttime
Right.
because it does get to be a compatibility issue when it's 2 a.m. and, you know, everybody's having a nice time and there's neighbors right there. So we kept pulling back on the nighttime without spending a lot of energy on the morning side.
Thank you. Thank you. That was it. That's all I had for today. I appreciate everybody being here and appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Please stay well. I keep
You
saying that
too.
to folks. I hope it happens.